he's from a new Facebook ad tool, Magix. And it's great to have you on, Chris. And I'm curious if you can give us a quick intro of what Magix is and just after that, we can dive into some strategies behind Facebook ads. It's going to be really exciting for sure.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love it. Thank you so much for having me on. So I'm super pumped to be here, and I'm coming prepared to really just over deliver and really make it worthwhile to listen to this and get tons of value from it that you can then go ahead and execute when improving advertising strategies. So super pumped for that. So yeah, in the end, my name is Chris Pechau. I'm a VP Customer Success here at Magix. So that's just a fancy way of saying my job is to make sure that people have success with the platform and really start benefiting from it and improving their advertising. And in the end, Magix.com, basically what it is, it used to be a platform that we've built internally for our agency, right? So I'm calling from the Vienna office right now. And here's where we started our agency business, doing media buying for luxury fashion brands and jewelry brands and software companies, etc. And we always had the issue a little bit when it comes to scaling the HR side of the business. So Yav Hartman, being very experienced in the SaaS industry, said, "Hey, okay, let's go ahead and build technology to help us grow and scale the agency." And we put a nice logo on it, made it look fancy, put some extra tools on top, and launched it as the Magix platform in 2019. And yeah, man, the rest is history. Now we have well over 60,000 users on the platform, 3 offices all over the place. A team, I believe, is 50 plus men and women strong. So yeah, it's been a great success ride so far. And in the end, what we do is we bring the knowledge and the execution power of top tier advertisers and make it accessible for every business out there, every agency out there, every DTC and e-com and lead generation business out there to really help you, build the best possible advertising strategy, automate the management of that strategy, analyze and report on the performances, and grow and scale your ads.
Yeah, that's great. And I wanted to dive in a lot into the creative aspect of it. And I think that's where it really separates from a lot of other tools, because a lot other tools you can get the automation and things like that. But it's really interesting how, especially your AI insights, how basically you can track the performance if it has a plant in it, if it has particular objects in it, that it's actually analyzing what the object is and seeing the performance increase or decrease because of that. And I was wondering if you could tell us more about that, or maybe something that's coming up within the Magix tool or anything else like that, because that's my favorite part of the tool. At least I love that part of the tool, so it's neat.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love that. I love that point. In the end, what's very interesting is, with sort of the rise of big data, with the rise of Facebook advertising platform, the Google platform, all these online advertising platforms, and the capabilities to track like never before, we like, meaning the advertising discipline, became very numbers driven, very scientific in a way, right? And it's very exciting to see how, over the past probably a year or so, like how we're really sort of reverting back into this madman creative first era, which is very interesting to see. So now we're sort of again rediscovering the creative side of things and sort of merge this all together. And I think that is where the super advertiser will sort of emerge, right? So that is a very fascinating dynamic. So what we are doing with our technologies, creative insights and ad copy insights and all that good stuff with our AI tools, we are merging the right hemisphere of the brain with the left hemisphere of the brain, right? We put a scientific approach to the creative field of advertising. And in the end, what we're doing is, we sort of break down the creative into its 3 formulas of success, or that differentiate between success and failure. Because if you really think about it, there are really only 3 things that, make the big difference. And that is format, it's the messaging, and it's the style. Right. So how do you present your content? Is it a carousel format? Is it a video format? Is it an image? Then in terms of the style, is it a selfie video? Right? Is it a fancy high production video? Is it a comic animation? And then last but not least, the messaging. Do you take a more emotional approach? Do you take a more rational, factual approach? Do you build on trust using testimonials and user-generated content? So I think those are really the variables between a successful ad and an unsuccessful ad, and everyone has to sort of figure out their combination of those three. By the way, having that framework installed in your dome, it really helps also with principles like reverse engineering, right? When you go out there and you take a look at what your competitors are doing, to really pull the maximum insight, look at the format, look at the style, look at the messaging, right? So that's basically how we go about it. And our platform, operates in a very similar way, where we first focus on showing, okay, what is your level of adoption across the different content formats? Do you run carousel ads? Do you run image ads? Do you run video ads? If you do, how much spend is behind every one of the formats? And how well does it return in terms of ROAS or cost per lead, depending on what you care about, right? And that already provides in itself tons of insights, because from that, number one priority, and I think for everyone listening, right, really cross-check your strategy in that regard. Do you adapt to all the different content formats Facebook's offering, right? Facebook, they know what kind of content you as a user like to engage with, right? If you love video ads, I now want to run an ad against you, but I only run carousel ads, and my competitor, Nick, is running video ads. Nick is going to win. He's going to get your placement, not me, right? And so it's very, very crucial that number one priority, you just make sure that you leverage all the different format types to really maximize reach and minimize cost. And you know what? Like, very often it's very easy. If I'm running only carousel ads, okay, hey, let's figure out my best carousel ad. Let's take the images and let's turn it into a GIF animation, right? And voila, there you already take a proven piece of content that already seems to be resonating, and you turn it into a video ad so you can try this new format. And those are all things that you can execute upon really easily. Hey, let's take all the images from the carousel ad and build single image ads if I'm not running that, or vice versa, right? If I'm only running video and image, no carousel ads, let's try to find our best creatives, put them together and run it as a carousel. So I think that is the first angle of attack, because it's very fundamental in the algorithms when it comes to the bidding, etc. But it's also very easy to execute, right? So I think that is a phenomenal opportunity, and that's sort of where we plug in, where we show you all the different content formats. Do you have budget inefficiencies between them? Are you not adapted to some formats? And then underneath, we have a matrix, which is one of my favorite pieces in this freaking platform, right? Where we show, for example, revenue to spend, and then we can see, then we map all the different content in that matrix, and we can find, for example, hey, here's a certain piece of creative that has very high revenue, but in comparison to other creatives, very low spend. So it's a scalable creative, and we point that out to you. And that is then golden insight. So, oh, wait a second, that is a carousel ad, let's say, right? And I'm not using any video ads as I've seen my first widget. So okay, let's turn that now into a GIF animation and run it as a video ad, right? So I think that is sort of the first part on how we deliver value. But regardless of Magix or not, like in general, like make sure you have the different content formats in your stack to really maximize reach and minimize cost. No? So I think that is a huge one. And then concerning the style, that is where our AI technology sort of plugs in, right? So what are some of the elements that across video and image creative really seem to resonate, right? I'll give you an example. For example, I had it's a nutrition company, and across some of their creatives, they had the lightnings, right? From like the thunderstorm, they had the lightnings, and our AI technology sort of detected that and showed, that the spend to revenue ratio is very, very healthy. So solid amounts of spend, but even more amounts of revenue, very, very good ROI on it. So, they started adapting it into their branding language, and now they have it all over the place, right? So in terms of style, that's sort of the angle to take there. And again, most powerful concept, at least one of the most powerful pieces of concept, like ways of thinking in my life, is just the power of reverse engineering. And if you have this framework of format, messaging, and style, go out there and take a look at all your competitors and see what kind of style they have in their creatives. How do they tell their story? Is it the selfie video? Is it the high production video? Is it software. We just have straight up screenshots of the platform, right? So use that to get new input and try it out, right? And then use analytics tools like Magix to really get the data feedback. Because in the end, all we do on Facebook is whenever we spend $1, we buy results, we buy the click, we buy the customer, but we also buy information, right? And it's our duty to leverage that information and figure out what's actually working. And upfront is, ask the right questions. And having that framework helps you really ask the right question, ask the different formats, ask the different styles, ask the different methods.
What typical format do you see that works the best out of like a broad spectrum, out of broad audience, things like that? I'm curious on an e-commerce sense, what formats work the best for Facebook ads typically?
Yeah, good point. I mean, no-brainer video, right? I think that is something we'll always have to have. Again, Facebook knows what kind of content you like to engage with. The majority of users like to engage with video, right? So they're going to get more video. It allows you for tons of reach, and also it's deep storytelling, right? You can really go deep. So that is fantastic. But don't sleep on the carousel ads, eh? Don't sleep on them, because here's another thing. For example, Facebook, they understand the engagement you have on your ads and give rankings, right? The engagement ranking, all that engagement score, all that stuff, and that helps you being favored in the auction, right? Get more reach. So certainly carousel is a very high engagement piece of creative, because you will swipe through it, and that is an engagement, improving your score, improving reach, minimizing costs. So I think those are really the two pieces of creative you shouldn't sleep on. Another cool thing is with carousel, you can leverage image. If the user's on the mobile phone on the way to work, bad internet connection, they might get more of image creatives because it loads faster, and then a carousel ad is also very attractive. So I think those two, they really take it. And if you're in the e-commerce space and you sell a product that is visual, the fashion, jewelry, whatever, like everything where just the pure look of the product sells, art, right? Dynamic product ads with a product catalog, undebatable. Yeah? And that always comes in a carousel format primarily. I think that's how it works the best. So I think those two take it away. Video, sure. Unless you have like an info product or stuff like that, keep it short as well, right? I think that is also common knowledge. And the first 3 seconds, please don't sleep on them, right? Use a solid 4x5 format. So many people still, like when I'm having calls, they run landscape format, which is just very small, right? It takes this, right? And you just scroll past it like that. No one's going to notice it, right? So take the piece of video and turn it into a 4x5. Right? And all of a sudden you have to scroll 2 times to actually get past the video. Given that there's autoplay on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, it already starts playing the video while they scroll past it. And if the first couple of seconds convince, voila, you have the attention. So that's the game to play. Yeah?
What do you typically notice? What is a good practice in your video ads and in your carousel ads and your image ads? Like, for me, like there are really great insights. Like if I'm sending traffic to Amazon to really gain Amazon sales, like I have the Amazon logo, and that will increase your conversion rate by over 300% for people to purchase that product on Amazon. I'm curious to see from what you have seen of some good practices within each of these formats, because it really could add a lot of value.
Yeah, 100%. So here's one thing that is very interesting, and this is again like when to everyone listening, right? Go into the ads manager and check on that. Actually, I love to compare outbound CTR versus CTR, and then in brackets all, right? CTR all in the brackets the all. It basically is every click on the ad. Every click, right? They expand the ad copy. They check the comment section. They pause the video. They engage with the carousel, or they click on a call to action. Whereas the outbound CTR, that is the actual click onto the landing page, right? So the delta, the gap between those two KPIs, gives you tons of insights in terms of how well is your call to action messaging, right? So if you see a 2.5 a CTR all, but you only see a 1.2 or 1.5 CTR outbound CTR, it means you're losing 1% of people who are engaged with your ad, but they never actually click on the call to action. So that is certainly a KPI to look at, and something that is very, very, very common. People go all crazy. Wow, 3% CTR, muzzle tough, but the outbound CTR is operating in 0.8. And on that note, what I see is doing extraordinarily well. It's just really take the time for video. The past 3 to 4 5 seconds, go ahead and have a call to action. All of you guys know it, right? Like, we're on Instagram, we're scrolling for 30
Yep.
minutes,
Yep.
and we end the session and we don't even know what we looked at.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, that's true.
no, right? Like three
Yeah.
of the pieces of content you were looking at were my ads that I spent good money for, right?
Yeah.
But you never, you don't even remember it. So it's very important to sort of disrupt the pattern. And in the end of the video, just have a blank screen, or something that is not giving you dopamine anymore, and just like straight up call to action. Discover the new collection now, and then maybe an arrow pointing, to the call to action or something like that.
Yeah.
To really disrupt the pattern and confront people with like, hey, you got to execute, and you have to make a decision now, right? And get out of this dopamine high in a way. So that is a very interesting practice. Concerning the carousel, I again, like, I'm a huge fan of DPA. If you have a product that is visual, like, that is 110% something you'll have to figure out. If you're using Shopify, etc., just search on YouTube how to build my product, Facebook product catalog, Shopify. That is certainly something you should go for.
Yeah.
When you build the catalog, upload multiple product images, so you can turn on the slideshow feature, meaning then every card is dynamic. It shows dynamically the product that the user might be interested in, right? I don't know, I'm in the market for white sneakers, so I'm gonna get the white sneaker. But if you turn on the slideshow function, it'll show the different product images, which also makes it way more engaging and deeper storytelling, because it shows multiple angles of the product and maybe on a model and stuff like that. And here, another thing, when you go for DPA, train that stuff up, right? So first run it on retargeting and retention, and perhaps even re-engagement, where you readdress people who watch your videos or left a like or engage with your social media pages, to build up learning on the catalog, because now Facebook already knows who they are and what product they looked at, so they have a better and easier time to show the right product. Build up the learning for 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on how much you spend, and then move it into acquisition, but combine it with a first card creative, right? You can go into the settings of the ad and add a first card creative. Take your best image, take your best video from top of funnel, from your top of funnel strategy, and have it as a first card in front of the DPA. So that grabs the attention and does the storytelling and already has proof of concept. And then you still leverage the power of DPA. So that is certainly something that I like to roll with there. Yeah, I think that's and overall, here's another thing. Facebook got rid of this 20% text rule, right?
Yeah, that's great.
So 100%, right? So don't be hesitant there. We certainly see that fast, effective messaging works well. So also on an image, right? Show the product, but like put text on there like crazy. Like don't be hesitant. Be very clear, and So I think those are the
simple text. Not like no one's gonna read a paragraph. No one's gonna read all those different things. But like I always see either people not having any text at all, or they're having way too much text. No, just simple messaging, maybe 6 words, 6 or 7 words max, and really just get your point across and show your image, show your picture. But it's like if you're not putting captions in your videos, you need to, because 80% of people don't have their sound on. And if you are running image ads, put text in it. Use Canva, use something super simple, and really just put that text in there, because it'll make a huge difference. It will. And it's so funny when I go through my feed and I just still see people only having image-based ads with no text, or when I do see an ad, the text is like literally a paragraph. So it doesn't make any sense, but those are really great practices when you are making your ads, and to really take your ads to the next level for sure.
Yeah, and actually, maybe on that note, real quick, something that popped up in my mind as well is be very conscious of the environment you're advertising in, meaning also visually. So Instagram and Facebook both are platforms that are white, right?
True.
So if you go out there and you run white ads, it doesn't really pop. Right. So try to think of ways to disrupt the pattern, run black, dark ads, right? Like things that stand out. It's also very interesting. Yeah. So also be very conscious of that. Yeah.
And also, a lot of people switch to dark mode. Depending on the audience you're targeting, there are people that run dark mode under like, under a certain demographic. Like I know most people under the age of 24 most likely have our guys have dark mode on.
Yeah,
And like and running dark mode ads under like it's always worth testing the white and dark version of it, because who knows, dark ads may work better on with dark backgrounds and white ads may work better on, like you have to test
yeah,
either one, and testing between the dark and light version is something that's really great to test. But what I see a lot of business owners make the mistake is where they say, oh, Facebook ads don't work. I tested one audience with one ad graphic. And you made a great point about you have
mm,
to be testing more ad graphics. Like you have to, and you can't just you can't test one format with one ad with one everything. It comes down to really testing all these different ad creatives, because you never know how your audience is going to react. If you're targeting 1 million people with one ad, you can't expect them all to react the same way. It's just not going to happen. You
yeah,
never know, one audience may love this particular ad and another audience may love this another particular ad, and you have to test it and give Facebook all the information possible. The more
yeah.
information you give to Facebook, the better your ads will perform. So I always recommend targeting minimum 3 audiences with 3 ad graphics, like in each ad set, because like you can't expect a Facebook ad to run effectively with one audience and one ad graphic. It's not realistic at that point.
Yeah, like on that point, I couldn't agree more. And there are multiple reasons for it, right? For example, to touch on the run multiple ad sets and multiple targetings, right? Here's another thing. Everyone who's running ads can probably subscribe to the problem that they're seeing, that Facebook ads are very inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
So one day an ad set is doing extraordinarily well, the next day it's completely tanking and dying, and then it does well again. So there's
Yeah.
constant up and down, right?
Yep.
Now, why is this happening? It's a marketplace, right? We're bidding against other advertisers. One day we win the auction, one day we lose. Big competitor comes in, so we lose. A competitor moves out, so we win. There's constant up and down, and it's a very, very much like a market dynamic.
Yeah.
Now, where do we have this dynamic as well? On the stock market, right? Now, so what we can do is we can take a look at investors, see how, and take some learnings from their discipline and translate it to our discipline. So
Yeah.
one thing that they all do is they diversify their investment portfolio.
Yeah.
So hey, like we got to do the same thing with our audience portfolio. We have to diversify our audience portfolio, right?
Mm.
And there, like another thing, and this applies to creative, but also audience testing.
Yeah.
Ask the big questions first. So we have there are people sometimes who they have one video and then they go ahead and they A/B test, for example, the different call to actions, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, true, might be different, but instead of testing the call to actions, it's like such a small thing. How about we test first image versus video, or or how about if you even only have the video, then let's recut it and change the 3 seconds. Like that's going to have a way bigger uplift than a different call to action, right? And the same thing applies also to the audiences. Instead of running 5 visitor lookalike audiences, ask bigger questions first. Go ahead and try to run first the biggest 2 differences: interest targeting versus lookalike. Like you've got to have both, like
Yeah.
undebatable, right? And then within those different areas, when we take a look at lookalike audiences, for example, okay, what's the biggest variable here? What's the biggest variable to success, or the biggest difference in lookalike audience building? I would argue that is probably the pixel event you're using to build the audience, right?
Yeah.
Is it purchase pixel data, visitor pixel data, adds to cards pixel data,
Yeah.
video view and social media pixel data, right? So number one audiences to launch one customer lookalike, one visitor lookalike, one adds to cards, one video view, more than 95%, tends to do the best, then Facebook engager and Instagram engager, right? Bam, with the minimum amount of audiences, good level of diversification. Same thing for interest targeting. Try to come up with categories. I see so many people going about it. They build like one ad set, put one interest inside.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool, because now you can kind of see, okay, that interest might be working well or not. But again, Facebook is kind of random. You can launch the same ad set 5 times and it's going to perform differently. So what's that insight worth anyways, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, no, don't do that, because that's going to be very expensive if you want to test a lot of different interests. And if
Yeah.
you don't want to spend so much money, you end up testing 3 interests. Doesn't get you anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I would argue for the interest side of things, try to come up with categories that
Yeah.
make sense to target competitors or brands in your niche, right? If you're
Exactly.
targeting for luxury fashion, one ad set should target Burberry, Dolce Gabbana, Fendi, Prada, right?
Yeah.
Then, maybe retailers in your niche, right? So one ad set should target Net-a-Porter or Farfetch, all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
magazines might be another category. So that's
Yeah.
how I would go about it, because now, hey, you don't have to launch 50 ad sets. You launch 3, 4, 5,
Mhm.
depending on how many categories you can come up with. You still target lots of interest because you put all the ones that fit to the category inside that ad set, and you get somewhat actionable insights, because
True.
now at least you can say, oh, wait a second, the competitors is doing super well, so I should go ahead and find more competitors, whereas the online retailers and magazines doesn't do anything, so let's get rid of them. And maybe now we want to take all the competitors and build separate ad set per competitor to maximize reach, because now it's fine to put the money down for it because it already has proof of concept. It did well before.
Mhm.
So that's how I look at that, right? And then on a creative level, diversify between format, style, and messaging. Run carousel, image, video, and then try to diversify also your messaging.
Mhm.
I think that is really a good baseline that many people don't execute upon. Yeah.
And you're so right about the segmentation of audiences and really putting it into categories. That is
Yeah.
so right. And if you don't know, like, say if you are targeting one interest and you don't know what to target yet, use that suggestion button. And it shows you all related interest, and you can put that in and categorize it and really find interest really easily that way.
Mm.
And like I usually do mine based on, I target a lot of Amazon audiences.
Yeah.
So I might target people that like shoes, that are interested in shoes, but also do an
Right.
Amazon shopper interest. And so that way I have a must in there. So that way I know that they like shoes and they shop on Amazon. And then I might deliver that ad to them. And I might also have a lookalike audience of my Amazon customers. And that way I find people that are more likely to purchase my product through that lookalike audience. But also I put my competitors in another ad set, and that makes it perform really well. That's usually my top
Yeah.
performer is my
Yeah.
competitor ad set, because
Yeah.
you're taking that competitive advantage and you're taking it, like, you're really showing it of those people that have already, and really taking away their market share of their competitor ads and really trying to take away as their customers.
Yeah.
And it makes it where it performs really, really well, because those are the customers you're trying to target. So always remember that, like, you always segment out and be reaching different audiences, because that's what's important. You have to be targeting new audiences. You can segment it in a way and use that suggestion button to find new ideas and really figure out what is the next thing I need to target and these new interests. And then after that, you gotta really match. If you match your ad set to your creative, if you match your audience to your creative, that's when you find explosive ads. That's when you
Yeah.
find ads that perform really well. So if I'm targeting a shoe lover that also shops on Amazon, then I'm going to put that Amazon logo in there. I'm going to put lots of shoe creative in there and really try to optimize for that audience and really make it where that will perform really well. And I usually change my ads based on the ad graphic. I change my ad graphics based on my audiences. That makes it perform really well. So if I'm doing that same thing for Walmart, if I'm doing the same thing to my Shopify, I'm going to change those logos. I'm going to change out those ad creatives, because each person is completely different. Those people that shop on Amazon are much more different than shop on Walmart. I'm going to change that ad creative. And really learning the e-commerce platforms and understanding which audiences are going to perform better is super, super valuable. But make sure, when I dive into an Facebook ad audit, I see that they're optimizing for link clicks, and then I'm just
Right.
going, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like, because they say I want more purchases. How do I do it? And I see
Right.
they're optimizing for link clicks. I'm like, oh.
Right.
Yeah, that's painful. That's painful to look at, to optimize for those link clicks.
Yeah.
So, and it really just comes down to your optimization method. Like, you really got to be optimizing for purchases, because Facebook is going to try to work for you for their algorithm. So if you're optimizing for link clicks, someone's going to click that link and not purchase, and Facebook's going to say, success, I did my job. That link click was a success. But if you optimize for purchases, and someone clicks your ad but doesn't convert, they're going to say failure, 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 and they're going to keep failing until someone purchases and it says success. I did my job. Now I'm going to go find other people that will also purchase my product, and then it will start optimizing as it gets more data. But if you're optimizing for link clicks, you're just not going to get the purchases you would like by really just doing optimizing for purchases. It's something you got to do on these platforms, and it's constantly changing.
Yeah, and do it quick, right?
Yeah.
There are many, like, I don't have any data, right? So I have to build up the data side of things. But the problem is, like, Facebook has figured out your business quite fast, and they also know their customers and the users, and they know who's buying off of Facebook ads,
Correct.
right? So so it's possible to right away go for purchase and make it work. Obviously, the audience and creative, all that stuff has to be solid, but it's possible to make it work. If you don't do it, if you optimize for link clicks and stuff like that, you get lower quality of traffic, and that over the mid to long run it's going to mess up your pixel. So the audiences will perform worse. You keep on spending and retargeting on them. The lookalike audiences won't do well. You just don't do yourself a favor. So even like right from the get-go, go for purchase conversion optimization. It's a good way. Then you can still take like 5% of the budgets at top of funnel and run it on post engagement to get engagement up on the ads, right? Like those are practices you can execute, but the foundation, conversion purchase. I agree.
Yeah, and it sounds like with this new iOS 14 update, conversion optimization will be affected there, which is super unfortunate. I'd love to hear your take on the new iOS 14 update where it kind of takes away that pixel tracking, which will really affect this optimization method, at least for iOS devices.
Yeah, that is a very interesting thing, right? So when was it? June 2020, Tim Cook, right? He announced that like all these platforms using third-party cookies, it's going to show a pop-up, and then users with iOS 14.3 going to be able to opt out and avoid Facebook and avoid Pinterest and Snapchat and Amazon, all these platforms from tracking their activity on the web or on other applications. So yeah, like everyone is going crazy. To be very honest, I'm not so panicky about it. So now basically what's going to happen in the end, you will have a bunch of iOS users, eventually all of them, having this pop up. And it's safe to assume that there's really just two options. You either allow or you opt out, right? So it's safe to assume that 50%, higher than 50%, will actually end up opting out. Since the opt out is the first option of the two, it's very likely to be more than 50%. Some people say like, we cannot measure the effects because we don't know how many are going to opt out. Nah, come on, it's going to be a bit more than 50% for sure. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Now people are scared that this is going to affect. Okay, hey, we won't be able to track anymore as effectively. That's going to hurt reporting. I won't be able to see sales anymore on assets and ads that were actually generated, and that's going to hurt optimization. Right. It's going to hurt the way I manage my budgets. I'm going to downscale assets that actually do quite well. I'm going to have less data for retargeting. Right. I won't be able to retarget them anymore because they don't know the visitors. It's going to affect my lookalike audiences. They're going to have less data available. The Facebook AI is not going to optimize so well anymore in my favor. So great panic. In the end, my take on this is, number one, be very conscious that Facebook is changing the attribution window, right? That is something we'll just have to know about. They're going to move the attribution window from ad account, 28 days click and 1 day view. They're going to move it down to whatever you have set up on the ad set level, right? And that is maximum 7 day click. And 1 day view, I think it's still in the default, right? So that already in itself is going to reduce the number of sales you will see. Not significantly, because the majority of customers buy in the first 24, 48 hours, but there's going to be, someone saw the ad 13 days ago, back in the days, in December, you would still see the sale if he saw the ad 13 days ago and buys today. Now you won't anymore. So there's already going to be a bit of a drop in ROAS performances or cost per lead performances. There's going to be an increase, right? So that is just something we'll have to be conscious of. At this point, I think the majority of people are affected by this. The ads manager is super buggy. We cannot really see performances anymore so well. And what's happened there, at least to my knowledge, is that old ad sets still report on an ad account level attribution window, whereas new ad sets report on the ad set level attribution window. So it's all messed up, and that is why the data sometimes doesn't show and inaccurate and stuff like that. So that's just something we'll have to be conscious of. I heard that some people are like, pausing things and then turning back on, and then it adopts the new attribution window. I hate doing that. Because I don't want to take the momentum out of what's working. So I just ad sets die out, and then I'll introduce the new ones, and then it's going to work. Until then, like at the moment, obviously I'm biased, but in Magix it still shows fine because we still use that account attribution window. So I'm using that for now to operate, so that's okay. So those are just the things to be aware of. That's the change that's entering the ecosystem, and those are the effects with attribution window, less tracking, optimization, and reporting. Now, I would say, every year, every quarter, there's this change, and everyone thinks like the world's gonna fall apart, and that's certainly not gonna happen. So multiple things. Number one, everyone by now should be very aware of Conversion API. If you run a Shopify, etc., it's very easy to set it up. Basically, what it is, it's server-to-server migration, where when a customer buys your product, they leave the number, the email address, the name, their living address. They leave that data. You store it on your customer relationship management platform. And what you can do is you can set up a migration with a Conversion API, where that data is then pushed to Facebook, and they will be able to then match it to the user on Facebook, right? So that already in itself is a very, very good solution. Now, the problem is that it takes a bit more time. There's going to be sort of like a 3-day delay, give or take, right? So that's just something we have to be conscious of. So when we judge success and failure, but we should have done this already before. It's the last 7 days, last 14 days. That's how you want to judge success or failure of your ad set. So it doesn't really massively change anything there. Just be conscious when we set up automation, right? That's that today judgment. It's just not fair anymore, unless you heavily rely on CTR. No?
That Conversion API is exactly what I'm doing for Amazon right now, because what we're talking about sounds like Facebook or for Apple, they're taking away our pixel essentially for tracking those Apple users. But on Amazon, you can't put a pixel on the website, and you have, in order to optimize for purchases through Amazon, you essentially have to guide the user and bring them through. I usually bring them through a promotional page, storefront, or things like that, where they can click on a product they want, purchase it, and then I get my Amazon customer list, upload it, and then I have it where Facebook will cross-reference that customer list with the Amazon data, and then it will start optimizing for purchases. And what's even cooler, I was able to use the Facebook API to see like kind of what Magix does, where you're able to see the conversion rate off of the particular ad of the particular ad, even though it's guided the Amazon, the ad is for Amazon, and which is really fascinating stuff. And it's really great that even though that we don't have that Facebook pixel in place, we're still able to optimize for purchases. So at the end of the day, if all pixel tracking goes away, we still have the ability to use that Conversion API no matter what happens, and eventually get those purchases back and really keep optimizing for purchases. Yes, it's less accurate, but that's what you get. At least you get something beside optimizing for links clicks, because that's just going to suck every single time if you keep optimizing for link clicks.
No, 100%. Yeah. And like one more thing that Facebook is sort of cooking on right now, is what is it called? Facebook aggregated event management. I think that is how they call it. They are very unprecise about what it will actually do. But basically what it is, it's sort of like like they still collect the web data, and push it back to Facebook, but in a way that it's compliant with the ATT policies of Apple. So that is a move that they execute right now. So I'm super pumped. They are very unprecise, so it's going to collect less data that's being transmitted without sacrificing key insights for advertisers. That's sort of how they explain it. So that is the move that they take already next to the conversion API. So that's going to be interesting as well. So they make their moves. We make our moves. The conversion API certainly is something to already adopt on and have at hand. And here's another thing, right? So that's already going to come, and then you're not going to have a major issue anymore with lack of data. Retargeting, that is something that will take a hit. That's just how it is, right? Like the conversion API can't help there as well. So that is true. I believe in our ecosystem to come up with ways to sort of deal with it. A lot of smart people in this industry, so we for sure going to figure this out. But basically, what's happening is the following thing. If now everything takes effect and it's completely drastic, first of all, it's not going to be noticeable until May, June, because it takes some time until people install this, right? Apple has a great history of making your devices slower with the updates, so people are a bit hesitant, right? So it's going to take some time until people actually adapt to these updates or buy the new device so they have no other option, right? So that's number one. I don't really expect a massive, gap of data until May, June. I might stand corrected, but that's claim number one. Claim number two. We Facebook advertisers are spoiled like never before. We go ahead, we build a 20 million target audience, we put 6 ads inside, right? All dynamic stuff, and then it goes and makes money, right? So like, come on, like it's very easy at this point, right? So what I'm seeing is like if we really have less data, less tracking, less AI power, okay, it's setting us back to Facebook ads 2016, 2017, right? Where there's going to be again a heavier push towards smaller, more niched out audiences. There's going to be another a new emphasis on creative and the power of creative. If cannot target me, as I'm in the market for white sneakers, and now you hit me with a black leather jacket ad, if that creative is phenomenal and fire, I might buy both. Right. So it's just going to put us back to this environment. These huge, massive audiences might not work anymore so well. So it's really what you said as well. Like, okay, Walmart customers are different. So let's tailor the ad to the Walmart. Okay, that's the game maybe. If we have a lack of data, So it's a very, very right approach, very true approach. And also something, we as Magix, we sit on top of this Facebook platform primarily, right? So it's very interesting for us. What does it mean for the overall ecosystem and the cash flowing into this market? Number one, online advertising is happening. Like, what are we talking about, right? Small businesses and even bigger businesses, enterprise businesses, trade on the back of Facebook ads. They grow on the back of Facebook ads. That's not going to change. Pandemic, another factor, like that's not going to change. Right. So the money is going to flow into the ecosystem. Now, this iOS 14 update, it's affecting everyone. It's affecting Snapchat and, Pinterest and Amazon, like everyone who's using, everyone using these third-party cookies hit by this stuff. Now, the cool thing is no other platform on this planet has the amount of information about the users than Facebook has. True. So if we have the conversion API where we push the name and the phone number and address and all that good stuff over to Facebook, they will be able to match it to the users on Facebook at a higher rate than any other platform. Good luck, Snapchat, right? They just don't have this amount of data. So what that means is the whole like all these platforms going to go down, but Facebook's going to go down the least. That's something that Jav Hartman, our CEO, said, and thought it's super smart. So in this whole fight, everyone's going to go down. Facebook's going to go down the least. So actually, it's going to end up winning in the situation. That is sort of my bet. We'll see.
Yeah, and real quick, I wanted to get your take and strategies on the best way to bring traffic to your e-commerce store. Is it for top of funnel to get more customers? Is it to show them a brand ad and then target the people that watch that brand ad and by then showing the product? What are the best strategies for bringing traffic to your e-commerce store and things like that? I would love to get your take on that.
Yeah. So first of all, make sure you don't drop the ball. What do I mean by that? Build the full funnel strategy, right? For us, is acquisition, prospecting, re-engagement, retargeting, and retention. What does it mean? Acquisition, prospecting, look like an interest targeting, excluding visitors and customers, really making sure you build this new pipeline of business coming in. Re-engagement is a custom audience, our custom audiences of people who've watched your videos for longer than 75%, for example, who've engaged with your Instagram and Facebook pages, custom audiences, readdressing them. Still exclude visitors and customers for attribution reasons. Maybe we can dive in on that topic real quick. And then we have retargeting, right? So take all your visitors, people who've added to cart. Don't be all too crazy about it. Many people go ahead and they build micro journeys like 0 to 3 days, 3 to 6 days. That very much makes sense if you spend tons of money. If you don't, it's too many, too small audiences, too expensive. So just retarget your visitors 0 to 30 days. Again, a custom audience. That's going to take a hit with iOS 14. That's going to be true, but keep in mind, it's going to take until summer, until it's really out there. There's still Android and desktop, so we got to have it anyways. And then retention, build a custom audience, maybe even push CRM data is into a custom audience in Facebook of all your customers, address them again, right? So that is the first setup that we'll have to make sure we have for attribution reasons, and then also being able to really tailor the content to the psychology of the user. And acquisition prospecting is all about getting curiosity to then get them on the page, whereas in retargeting, it's all about handling objections, right? They've been on your page already, Mr. Customer, but they haven't made a purchase yet, right? So they had an objection, something held them back. And typically it's a lack of something, lack of trust, lack of information, lack of urgency. I'll buy it tomorrow, right? Or I don't freaking know this company, or there's certain information that I'm just missing. So your retargeting ads have to be tailored to that stuff. You have to have an ad that's just very infomercial, like a 14, I don't know, 14-day money back guarantee, right? All that good stuff. And then you have another ad with testimonials and stuff like that. So just tackle these legs of that drive objections, right? So that's the number one, ARR, right? We got to have this in place. Then in terms of audience strategy, obviously, like we discussed, conversion, purchase optimization, then maximum diversification, look like audience, interest targeting, just like we've discussed. I think that's that. In your audiences, be somewhat niche in the beginning. Lookalikes, go for 1% in the beginning. Later on, you can play with 5%, 10% in a CBO environment, for example. Stick with ABO in my experience, ad set level budgets. It's the older technology still tends to do quite well. CBO is a bit more new, experimental, tends to collapse sometimes. So I like to go for ABO, enjoy the agility that comes with it. Every audience in the beginning is an experiment. I want to have the liberty to pause it. And in a CBO, it punishes the whole campaign and it all goes down. So I like the agility of an ABO. That's sort of how I play with that. Another mindset kind of thing is I'd rather launch 10 audiences at $10 than 2 audiences at $50, right? So I like to have my budgets as low as possible to launch more audiences and go flat and broad. However, be very conscious of your cost per purchase, right? If you have a cost per purchase of $100, launching ads with $10, bad idea, not going to work. My rule of thumb there is sort of cost per purchase below 40, go for $10, 40 to 80, go for $20 to $30, and then all the way up, like, then you have to sort of figure this out, but go for like $50 and stuff like that, right? So that way you can really test tons of audiences at low budgets, figure out what's really working, but then be quick in scaling it up to the 1x cost per purchase level, right? So cost per purchase of $30, you start with $10, that's fine. Facebook probably is going to be able to drive some initial sales. You get the momentum, you see 2 sales, good ROAS, but then be quick and scale it up to 30 so it doesn't die off, right? So that is that. In terms of creative, we talked about it, right? The diversification between format, style, and messaging. Again, everything geared towards curiosity, be disruptive in your color pattern, have very clear call to action messaging, reverse engineer the market, go to a Google Facebook ads library, search all your big competitors' Facebook pages, see what kind of ads they run, and run this pattern. What's the format? What's the style? What's the messaging? And use that knowledge for your own purposes and build around it. They've already spent the money, leverage that insight, right? I think that is sort of like a high level how I would execute, and with some very niche and specific strategies.
Also using that audience insights tool that Facebook gives you, you can literally type in the interest that you want, and it will give you their age, their demographic, their relationship, their job, and what the best tool, like you can go to their page of the amount of people that like certain pages, and you can see what pages that your audience is liking, and you can create those type of posts and see what they're engaging with, so you can match that ad creative and really create ads that your audience will engage with, especially towards that particular interests, because each interest is different in its own way, and you can create ad graphics that will appeal to each individual interest, and that makes it where your ads kill it every single time. So it's really great when they start performing and they start doing really well.
Hell yeah.
So yeah.
Hell yeah.
I don't want to take up
100%.
too much any more of your time. I know you have to go, but thank you for coming on, and it was great to have you. And yeah, you're very passionate about Facebook ads, similar to me. So I'm really glad that we got to talk. Thank you.
No, 100%, 100%. I'm super happy. If there are any questions that your community has, right, like don't hesitate, like to let me know about them. I would be very happy to address them. And then I hope I was able to deliver tons of value. Thank you so much for having me. It was tons of fun for me as well. And then